So we're rapidly getting things ready together for the arrival of our students and the ministry that we have as a church, which is a really important ministry, something I know we all feel strongly about. So it's an exciting time today. And I want us to continue with the devotions that we're in the moment are on We Are the Church. Well, we are the church. And I've been very convicted in my own personal prayer time, my own personal readings. Currently I'm reading Psalm 1 and Psalm 19. And those are my meditative devotions that I've been doing, which I'll do for a couple of weeks. Psalm 1, starts off very well. It starts off about blessed, and it really pulls together a lot of how it feels to be a Christian. And I was in my devotions and in my personal reading time, I've been really meditating, reflecting on why it's important for us to meet as a church, especially since we are forced to not be together as a church, and we're forced with long periods of time where we don't get to physically meet. And so it's made me reflect that why are we told to meet together? What is the purpose of us coming together, such as the early church did and encouraged each other? And it's something I want us to really think about this week. Our scripture today comes from Hebrews chapter 10, verses 23 through 25. And in this particular piece of scripture, the writer of Hebrews sort of extols his readers to continue to meet together, to worship and praise and pray together, physically in each other's company. And that's one of the real gifts that we get as a church. That, yesterday we talked about being a chosen people. We talked about royal priesthood. We mustn't forget that it is a gift. It is something that we should revere. It's something that we should hold very tightly to. It's something that we should be held as special to ourselves as Christians, that we get to meet as fellow Christians and enjoy a fellowship that is unique, a fellowship that is special, and a fellowship that ultimately is saving. So I want us to turn right now to the book of Hebrews and chapter 10, verses 23 through 25. So let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep his promise. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect our meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near. And there you have it. Once again, scripture delivers, right? It really does. It delivers. The writer of Hebrews pulls two distinctive pieces together. Actually, just in these verses alone, you have the wonder of God's redemptive plan in that you can trust him to keep his promises. Remember, the very first piece that Abraham had to deal with was whether he trusted God's promise that his descendants would fill the land. And that promise was challenged because God said, you need to sacrifice Isaac. And that instantly would make Abraham say, well, how am I going to keep the promise that you kept if I lose my son? Okay, so the trust in the promises, and the writer of Hebrews really pulls that together. And then the second, at the end of it, you have this issue that we should encourage one another and maintain that encouragement for Jesus' coming. Remember, we don't know when that will be. We don't know the time. The time and the hour is unknown. Only the Father knows. And as Christians, we are to stay encouraging with each other's not to pass away and not to give up and not to question and doubt who we are and the promises made to us, because those are important. But it's the middle section that I think is interesting, where he says, let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect our meeting together as some people do. And that one I particularly like. The why we meet together is part of that motivation. That you get to see the one person on a Sunday morning that is going to ask you if you're well. And you may not feel well, but you're going to really motivate yourself to think of not the burdens that I'm carrying so that I profess them to someone else. It's now being merciful to those who are carrying burdens. It's the smiles that people need. It's the contact that people need. And no, we can't give each other a hug at the moment. There's a physical contact that people need that we as Christians give each other. Now, you'll know that Hebrews, the writer talks about think of other ways. And that's what we should try and do today. Think of somebody that needs a text, or think of somebody that needs a phone call, or think of somebody that needs a prayer. And that really is how we can look at why the church as a gift is important, so that we are here to motivate each other and grow together as children of Jesus Christ.